Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Week 6 NFL Daily Fantasy Spreecast with myself, Davis Maddock, JJ Zacharyson, and our new co-host analyst, Anthony Amico. He writes for RotoViz and Fantasy Insiders. JJ is, of course, from Number Fire. And yeah, you might notice that Soccer Dave is not with us this week. He's a busy guy. He's decided to abandon us for the week. JJ, what are you most excited about for Week 6 NFL Daily Fantasy? Is it that you don't have to play Devontae Freeman?
Well, first it's that David Kitchen is not here talking with us. It's just a lot easier when Kitchen's not involved. No, I think that not having to play Devontae Freeman is exciting. I think people, I think there's going to be a really interesting lineup strategies when it comes to the quarterback position this week, because there's a lot of guys that are in pretty favorable matchups. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what Charkandrick West's ownership percentage is.
Okay, Anthony, what are you most excited about? Is it Sharkandrick?
Oh, I love Sharkandrick this week, man. I think he's going to get a lot of those passing down touches from Charles, so he's definitely a guy I want on DK.
Okay, all right. I mean, that's kind of how I'm thinking. We'll start with our analysis of this Thursday night game between the Saints and the Falcons. I mean, JJ, let's just start it out like this. Are you playing Thursday start contests at?
No, I mean, I think with Thursday, if you're going to play, you would play and have 100% exposure to Devontae Freeman. And if you're playing on DraftKings, probably Willie Snead as well, just given his price point. Um, Personally, I think that the strategy would be that you would fade the game, just don't play it. Just because it is high scoring. You have a guy like Julio, who obviously is beat up a little bit, who's beat up a little bit, and I think just given all the potential outcomes that could occur in a high scoring contest like that, there's just a lot of things that can happen, and it's just an easy fade, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, I also think that it's kind of an easy fade. The only reason I would be playing is because I want some Willie Snead exposure and what I think is a really good matchup. But it's not like playing Willie Snead is absolutely not worth having to pay the Devontae Freeman tax. Are you playing any Thursday start, Anthony?
No, I try to stay away from the Thursdays, maybe like a couple of GPP lineups, but for the most part, especially like JJ was saying, the game's such a high total. I usually like to fade Thursday, so I feel like guys are going to do well. I usually try to stay away.
I agree, and like I mean we've talked over it to death, but like I have no interest in finding out whether or not Devontae Freeman is good. And someone said something really interesting on Twitter, which was, are the same people who were wrong about Le'Veon Bell wrong about Devontae Freeman. But the thing about that is that Le'Veon was good in college and also just absolutely crushed the combine, like just crushed the combine. And Freeman was a slug. Who do
Well,
they
yeah.
play in Week 7, JJ?
Who
The
the
Falcons.
Falcons?
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you, but the thing I'll look it up really quick. But the thing with the Freeman, it's Tennessee is their next game. I think they have a bye. But
Oh
the thing
God,
with
gonna have
Freeman
to
and the
gonna have to
Le'Veon
play him.
and the Le'Veon comp, I don't think it's so much. I don't think it's a 1-to-1 thing. Le'Veon, a big reason that he was able to produce year two as opposed to year when he lost a lot of weight, he was a completely different running back. He was much more agile. Whereas this Freeman situation, to me personally, is I think a lot of it has to do with Shanahan. A lot of it has to do with that offensive line playing a lot better. Everyone knows that it's an offense that's going to be able to produce a fantasy relevant back as long as that offensive line is performing, just given the offensive weapons that they have. There's going to be a lot of scoring opportunities. There's also going to be some regression in the touchdown department with Devontae Freeman. He's seeing an absurd amount of touches in the red zone and within the 10-yard line. So I think it's all just, the last 3 weeks have just been kind of the perfect storm for Devontae. He's playing really, really well, don't get me wrong. But I don't think that necessarily it has as much to do with him as someone like Le'Veon it did, versus this system and this perfect storm kind of just happening.
All right, cool. Well, let's move past this disgusting Thursday night game, and we'll move to the big question of the week. Anthony, how many touchdowns do the Patriots score versus the Colts?
As many as they want, pretty much, I think is the correct answer. I mean, this game, it absolutely is going to have an FU feel to it. We know that the Patriots live by that. Bill Belichick doesn't care about anything. So I pretty much think that the offense is going to play and score for as long as they want, and then it's LeGarrette Blount time. Come on in and just eat up the yards, maybe score a couple touchdowns of his own.
Is it the Blount role has been super successful in this game. The Jonas Gray 4 TD game, Blount has had a really good game against the Colts in the past. If you're forced to choose this week, JJ, who scores more fantasy points, LeGarrette Blount or Dion Lewis, assuming that Lewis, this abdomen injury is not really a concern and he's a full go on Sunday?
I think you have to go with Dion Lewis. I mean, last week even we saw him outsnap him 42-17. Dion Lewis is legit top 10 option every week, and he's still priced kind of in that 15 to 20 range. I think he's got the floor, he's got the ceiling, he's got everything that you kind of want out of a DFS running back. I get the Blount move. I think that you could definitely throw him into GPPs. I don't want to be cheap and just say, yeah, we'll throw anyone in a GPP. But I think that, obviously there's such a huge spread. You know that they're going to be leading, and they're going to want to grind out clock, which is essentially what happened. When Blunt's on the field, he's touching the ball. I mean, he only had like 14 snaps or something last week, and he still had, more carries than Dion Lewis did. But it's essentially, we know these roles that these guys have, and I'm much more inclined to take the guy who's starting and who has performed better in general, not only on the ground but through the air, than I am the guy who's just closing out games.
Yeah, and that's basically what I wrote today, is that if you actually look, I went and looked at just what Dion Lewis had done in the first half of games. Both of his rushing touchdowns have came in the first half of games, and he has 180 yards rushing in the first half of the 4 games the Patriots have played. So even if literally they're up 35-0 at halftime and they just pull the ultimate insult and Brady comes out of the second half without his pads on and Lewis doesn't play, he still has a relatively safe floor. I think the sort of interesting way to approach it is, though, I do think you have to choose to either go Brady and Gronk or to choose one of the two. I think you need exposure to the Patriots offense and their primary touchdown creators one of the ways. If I said that on either site, either of the big sites, Anthony, you have to choose between Brady or Gronk, you can only have one, which one do you take?
I'm probably taking Gronk, and I think it's more just because of the tight end options. If I fade Brady, there's tons of quarterbacks I like. I like Carson Palmer. I like Colin Kaepernick, honestly. There's plenty of options to play a quarterback at cheaper prices. Even if I want to stay high, I can still play Rodgers. But at tight end, I really feel like it's Gronk, it's Olsen, and maybe Antonio Gates this week for me in cash. And I don't think I want to do, either of the two lower priced options if I can go up and get Gronk.
What about you, JJ, if you have to pick between the two of them?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's necessary. I mean, it's way too difficult to have both of them in your lineup, like you said. And I think just given the variance at the tight end position in general, inherently, you're gonna want to throw Gronk in there, given that there are so many quarterbacks in good spots this week, as Anthony said. So to me, it's play Gronk over just playing Brady, just because of the drop that you can find and the values you can find at the quarterback position.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the way I'm viewing it right now, and that's a nice little transition to the quarterback position. Sam Bradford has been really good for two weeks in a row. JJ, are you back on him for cash games?
Who, Bradford?
Yeah.
No, I'm not. I don't think it's a necessary risk, because to me this week with quarterbacks you have. Sorry, I'm gonna put my mic closer so that
people are freaking out, man.
Yeah, man. Jeez. So no, I think this week it's you pay for Brady if you want to pay for quarterback, which is a good move, a strong move, a smart move, or you drop down and you go for some of those min-price guys if you're playing on DK especially. So there are a ton of guys in that category that I like this week. I think Dalton, for whatever reason, his price hasn't caught up to his production. I know that it's Andy Dalton, but we have to face the facts that Andy Dalton has performed like a top 5 quarterback this year. He's playing really, really well. So I love Dalton. He's in a good spot against Buffalo. Buffalo's allowing the highest pass-to-run ratio in the NFL, and fantasy quarterbacks are performing very well against them. But you can go, like Anthony said, Colin Kaepernick against Baltimore. It's basically the best matchup a guy like Kaepernick could ask for. Even Blake Bortles against Houston, even Jay Cutler against Detroit, Stafford against Chicago. I mean, you have a lot of guys in these favorable spots that, to me, if you're not paying for Brady, I can maybe understand you paying for Carson Palmer, but then I would just drop down all the way to those mid-price guys.
You stand for Nick Foles against the Steelers. How can you not think that Palmer, who leads the most efficient passing offense?
Look, no, Palmer's a very, very, very good play this week. A very good play. To me, and I even said this on the FanDuel podcast that I do. To me, it's Brady. You drop down to Palmer if you want to use Palmer, that's fine. But I think, me personally, I would rather just spend more of that mid price on those quarterbacks because there's so many of them in good spots, or just pay up for Brady.
Okay, all right, Anthony. What do you think about that? Do you want to try and rationalize using Colin Kaepernick in cash games?
I mean, it's pretty tough to make a compelling point just because he's been so bad, but the Baltimore matchup is so good. They've already let 3 quarterbacks go over 350 yards with 2 or more touchdowns. I don't really think that Kaepernick is less talented than those guys. Like, I don't know, can we really say that Kaepernick's worse than Josh McCown? Like, I don't think that's really true. And Cap still is a guy that has 30-point upside on DK. He's already done that once this year. So, I don't know. I think right now I'm trying to build around him in cash just because I like the money that I can get. But if I can't get anything that works, I have no issue spending the extra $700 on Dalton or, $1,600 to get Palmer.
That's I actually think that's fair, but someone Sean P in chat just raised an interesting question. I think there's a non-zero chance that Rodgers is actually the quarterback play this week, because like anytime you can get Rodgers in tournaments as not the highest owned guy, like especially at home against a bad pass defense, like this one could have 35-14 pretty easily. I noticed JJ giving me the nah wave.
No, I mean, the pass defense isn't that bad for San Diego. It's above average. And you have a defense with San Diego that has been susceptible to running backs. I mean, they're not good at stopping the run. They're one of the worst teams at stopping the run in the entire NFL. Every single week this year, a running back has finished in the top 10 in PPR scoring against San Diego. So, and at the same time, one wide receiver has had a top 24 PPR performance, and that was Marcus Wheaton, who had 1 catch, and it was that crazy touchdown that Vic threw at the end of the game. So, to me, I don't think Rodgers is I think Tom Brady is the obvious play here, at least in cash. I mean, sure, to throw Rodgers out in the tournaments, it's a different story, just because you want to be a little bit more contrarian. But to me, it's Brady. I don't know why you would go against Brady, because he's outperforming him in general across the season as well.
Yeah, and I mean, like I agree with that logic, and that's why I wrote Brady up over Rodgers. But Rodgers is legit. Like, he's going to be under 10% owned, I think, in the Sunday Million and the Millionaire Maker, like the huge tournaments. And getting, like, low owned exposure to that offense is always really preferable. And that's another good transition, because we can talk about Eddie Lacy, who I know is going to be chalk this week. But he's losing a ton of, not just touches, he's losing a ton of snaps to James Starks. They're using Ty Montgomery in the backfield. John Kuhn is getting rushing touchdowns, and I'm obviously a noted Eddie Lacy non-believer. So Anthony, Eddie Lacy, yay or nay this week?
It's nay for me. I might look at him in some GPPs just because it's hard to turn away a running back that's a 10-point home favorite. But I've thought that the last 2 weeks, big home favorite, that he would do well, and he hasn't gotten it done. So I'm a little skeptical right now that he's still kind of the guy that they're willing to ride when they have to. I think he's right now for them just another cog in their offense.
That's what I think too. Like I think that they have a role for him, and that role is picking up 3rd and 1s, and he's fine, but I don't know. I guess I never really saw what people saw in Lacy, because every time James Starks would come in the game, he would be excellent. Or yeah, like Starks is really good. So here you go. Here's your floor, dude. Just
Okay.
do
No,
your Eddie Lacy bit.
I think this is a good spot for Lacy. I mean, we have 5 weeks of a sample size of San Diego's rush defense being terrible. First of all, I'm not saying that like he needs to be in your even in your cash lineups at all, but I think you should have decent exposure to him this week. I really do. His price point's very good considering where it was, let's say, last year when he was performing at a higher level. We know he can perform at a higher level.
Okay,
His usage-
honestly, do we though? I've always felt like his success
look.
is context dependent.
Yeah, no, I mean like Eddie Lacy might be overrated given what he produces. I don't doubt that. But at the same time I don't necessarily care about that. We know that he's with Aaron Rodgers. We know he's in this efficient offense. If you look at the teams that the Packers have played so far this year, Seahawks, Chiefs, and Rams are the 3 that stick out because the other 2 were, I mean, Bears and 49ers. They didn't show up against the 49ers. The Bears game was a little odd as well. The Seahawks, Chiefs, and the Rams, both 3 teams that you would rather right now, especially the Seahawks without Cam Chancellor, you're going to throw on as opposed to running the ball on. I think that's part of the reason that his usage was a little bit low, or it has been a little bit lower, is because the game and the matchups have dictated that a little bit. So I think just bringing that together, you now have the perfect matchup for a Lacy game against a bad defensive line, against a bad rush defense. And I think putting it together, huge favorites, it could end up being a pretty big Lacy game. And like I said, every single week the Chargers have given up a top 10 PPR performance, which, sure, I mean, take that with a grain of salt, but it's still something.
Eddie Lacy's fat. That's my counterpoint.
He's definitely fat.
No, like honestly, every time I've ever taken Lacy, and I take guys I hate just because I'm surrounded by really smart people, and they sometimes talk me into players I don't like. But every time I have Lacy and I watch him, I tilt.
Yeah, I mean, like the thing with Lacy is that like where he's priced at, it's much more of a GPP play, I think, than it is a cash play. Not only because of the way that he's been used, but because on most sites you can just pay a little bit more and get a guy like Foster, or you can just punt a little bit or pay less and go with a guy like Deion Lewis and maybe a Chark-Kendrick. Like that. Yeah. That's really the reason that you wouldn't play Lacy in cash, is just because of where he is priced. But at the same time, his price point is not bad considering what his potential output could be.
Okay. All right. Top overall running back play, Anthony. Just like salary doesn't matter. Who scores the most points at running back?
I think it's Arian Foster this week. He's back in the saddle. His usage it's gone right up. He's back up in that, high 20s in touches. And I think that this week he's definitely going to continue to get the rock. Texans have been really straightforward with how they distribute the ball. It's Arian Foster, it's DeAndre Hopkins, and when it's not either of those 2 guys, it's a huge problem. So I definitely think that he's going to continue to do well. It's a pretty favorable matchup, I think, even though, the Jaguars' DVOA rating is pretty high. Doug Martin just carved his defense up last week. So this is a huge spot, I think, for Foster.
I am on board with that line of thinking, but I also don't want to play Foster and Hopkins both in cash, basically.
Yeah,
I get that.
Like it's not an elite offense, and it's not like their team total is crazy, and they're negative correlation plays. Like every time Foster scores, you're going to be tilting Hopkins, and if you have vice versa, you're going to be tilting either way. Which is why I think Adrian Peterson is kind of my favorite running back play. Are you on board with that, JJ?
Yeah, that's fine. I think you can make a case for AP. You can make a case. I mean, you could still make a case for Le'Veon Bell even in this matchup, just because he's on the field literally all the time, and you know that he's still going to be on the field during passing down situations. So, I'm fine with AP being a top guy. I think whenever you consider cost, Foster is probably the better play without factoring in DeAndre Hopkins as well, and not wanting to play the 2. I think I would prefer Foster over AP. But yeah, I mean, I'm fine with you liking AP number 1 this week.
And I don't know, man. When Foster was a thing, I was just playing seasonal, when he was first on the scene. But I've kind of ran bad with him in DFS and just not gotten his great games. But Anthony, if I force you to choose between Hopkins and Foster, you can only roster one. Which one do you take?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. I think you're breaking up a little for me.
Yeah. Foster or Hopkins? Which one?
Oh, I'm taking Foster. It's no question. I'm honestly cool with playing both. Like, I think in PPR and DK, like, Hopkins can go over 100 yards and have 8 or 10 catches pretty easily and still hit value without scoring. So I don't really mind playing both. But if I had to pick one, I'm definitely rolling Foster. And I think I like especially the lower value wide receivers this week, but Edelman's right there in price. There's other guys you can take if you can't get Hopkins.
Okay. What about you, JJ? If you have to take one or the other.
See, I think lineup construction for me is more Dion Lewis, Charkandrick with DeAndre. I think that's more the route that I would go as opposed to playing Foster. But I mean, you can't. It's not. There's no wrong answer here. I mean, if Foster continues to see the usage that he did last week, he's going to be a really, really great player, especially in a plus matchup.
Okay. All right. Well, let's here we have a question from Yancey down. If you guys have questions, go ahead and put them there in the box right underneath the video. We can get to some questions. Can we please talk about Theoretic as a flex play? $3,300 on DraftKings means something. I think with the context of running back this week, that seems like I would just much rather play West than Riddick. What do you think about that, JJ?
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Riddick is that he's getting work because of game script and game flow, and they've had a negative game flow for essentially the entire season, which is why he's on the field and he's seeing so many looks, which is why he did against Arizona last week. This week they're favorites against the Bears, so I don't really think that he's going to have that big of a workload as what we've seen. So, given the fact that West is only a little bit more, I would definitely rather go his way than playing a guy like Riddick.
Okay. Anthony, is Riddick in play for you at all, or just nah?
I'm probably not on Rick this week. I mean, I get the logic, like he's catching passes, but like JJ said, it's about game flow. This is a game for them to get those other running backs involved and going. Zenner, Abdullah, they need to get those. They're definitely going to be a bigger factor this week than Riddick.
Okay. I'm fine with that. Let's talk about some of these mid-range running backs before we get to wide receivers. I mean, kind of for me, if Justin Forsett doesn't play 100% Buck Allen, I think that Buck Allen is a really talented running back. I had him like ahead of Melvin Gordon in my like running back ranks before the draft. I think he's a super talented player and should get a ton of opportunity this week, but we don't really know anything with Forsett as of right now. They had Taliaferro as probable for last week's game, and he's on the IR right now, so I don't really know what's going on with injuries there. JJ, so assuming Forsett is out, Javorius Allen or Sharkandrick West?
I think you got to go Allen. I'm fine with that because it's a clearer picture. It's arguably a better matchup, even though Minnesota's rush defense, for the record, it looks really bad in terms of fantasy point, or it looks really decent in terms of fantasy points against. But if you look at who they've played, they're really not that great of a rush defense. I mean, they're 29th against the run according to number fire metrics. They played San Francisco, San Diego, and Denver, so it looks a lot better than it actually is for Minnesota. So don't think that Charkandrick's like in a really bad spot. But I would definitely play Buck over him just because there's not much ambiguity in the backfield. I mean, even though we all think Charkandrick West is going to be the guy, I definitely think he's going to be the guy, especially in a PPR format. He's a smarter play. Niall Davis is very, very inefficient, and I know, Davis, put your earmuffs on because you love Niall. But
no, I'm over it. I'm over it.
Yeah, like Niall Davis is really not good at football, and people need to understand that. He's a big body. He probably will see goal line work, which is unfortunate. But I think Charkandrick should have a decent floor just given the PPR format. But because there's literally no one else in that backfield that Buck Allen would be fighting for carries with.
Here, Thomas, bro. Here, Thomas, out of the from the crypt.
Yeah, right.
Right.
I mean, there's nothing. So you got and you have a better matchup. I mean, San Francisco's defense has been horrific on both rush and pass defense. So I would go Allen in that case.
Okay, all right, Anthony, give me your take on West. This is really the hot topic of the week. I think the decision, assuming Forsett is active, the decision that people make on Charkandrick West in cash games is going to end up being whether you cash or not.
Oh yeah, definitely. But I agree with a lot JJ said. I mean, Buck Allen is really, really hard to pass up. The workload there is going to be huge. We're talking 25, maybe 30 touches as the only guy. And that's really hard to find. You're definitely not going to get that from West, even if everything goes really well. I don't think West gets that workload. And the matchup is better. Home, on the road, but favored against a bad defense. I definitely think that you have to go Buck Allen.
Yeah, I mean that's my opinion, and I'm really just hoping that Forsett doesn't go. We got a question in the chat. Hyde as a cash game play at home for 4,600 with better game flow from Andrew Novelli. JJ, you got a take on that? Nah wave. We're giving it a nah wave. Anthony, are there any Dolphins?
Let's just throw. Sorry,
Go
let me
ahead.
just say
No, go
with
ahead.
Carlos Hyde, like the crazy thing with Carlos Hyde is that even when game flow is favorable, like it's not like if game flow is favorable, then Carlos Hyde is this like top 5 option. Like Carlos Hyde still is not like he's not this locked and loaded player if game flow is favorable for him. So I'm just no, not in cash. I mean, it's not worth it.
Okay. That is fine by me. Would definitely not play him. Okay. Anthony, thoughts on Lamar Miller and GPPs this week, specifically on DraftKings with that sick price tag?
Who was the first player?
Lamar Miller and GPPs.
Oh yeah, I'm cool with that. I mean, we're hearing right now that he's going to get more work. I definitely buy that. I've been saying for like 3 years that Joe Philbin hates Lamar Miller, so with him gone, I definitely like that. The price is ridiculous, 4,300 for a guy that was a top 15 running back last year. I mean, this is a guy that with touches absolutely is going to be successful.
Okay. Let's see. JJ, is Thomas Rawls an option, or was last week kind of a mirage? I think he's an option, not a good one, but I think he is an option if Lynch is out again.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. I mean, they're heavy favorites actually. The matchup's not great, but at the same time, I don't think that should dictate strongly whenever you have a lower priced running back who would hypothetically be getting all the touches. So, I don't think it's terrible. The Panthers defensive line is kind of banged up too, so there's that. They do have Kuechly back this week though. Yeah. He's coming. He finally passed the protocol, but yeah, I mean, it's fine. I think that there's just other guys that are more intriguing than he is, and it does sound a little bit better for Lynch this week.
All right, that'll. Well, here I'll throw one more out to you guys because I saw something in chat. Thoughts on Matt Forte, Anthony?
I like Forte a lot. I think if I was going to play Hopkins and I was afraid to roster him and Foster, I'm going back to Forte. He's been pretty consistently getting a lot of work for them. I had 20 touches, in just about every game. I don't really think that he has a very low floor, so he's definitely someone that I'm looking at, especially against a bad Detroit run defense. This is a game they could actually be winning.
Yeah, it's hard for me to see it, but they could. The Detroit is really bad. They're very, very bad. We'll go ahead and move on to wide receivers now. I really wish that Odell Beckham was fully healthy and did not injure himself doing the salsa, because he would be stone cold nuts this week. He would absolutely be a lock in all formats, but he's a great tournament play because you're going to get him at like 5%, and if he's active, it's going to be sick against Byron Maxwell, but not planning on him for cash games. Who is number one? Doesn't even have to be, related to price. So number one most valuable DFS wide receiver this week is who, JJ?
I might say Julian Edelman. The slot receivers have done really good work against Indianapolis this year. Obviously, they have an insane team total. Edelman's price point, just given his production, is still at a pretty good cost, and you know that you have that floor with him. I'm speaking more in terms of cash, obviously.
I think Edelman is going to see, because he has not been playing exclusively slot this year. I think he's going to see a good bit of Vontae Davis.
He's still over 50% in the slot though.
He's there a lot, but not exclusively. His touchdown, his long one against the the Cowboys last week was from the left outside wide receiver slot. Spot.
I mean, he's not playing 100. He's not playing 100% of snaps from the slot. But I think he's still I think he's the guy that they're going to need to use in that passing game if they want to just move the ball at will. It could obviously be Gronk. Gronk has destroyed the Colts defense, by the way. Everyone keeps talking about what LeGarrette Blount's doing. Rob Gronkowski has destroyed them. So there's that too, and that risk. But yeah, I mean, Edelman, I do like Edelman a lot. But DeAndre Hopkins still is at a really, really, really good price point considering what he's doing, which is being basically the best PPR wide receiver in fantasy football.
I think that's an interesting point about Gronk because basically what's happened is Edelman has been having these gigantic games catching the long touchdowns, and that's meant that the Patriots haven't had to throw in the second half, which is Gronk has barely played in the second half of games this year. He's received the last 2 games. I think he has 4 targets in the second half against the Jags and the Cowboys, and obviously, one of these games, Gronk is going to be the one catching the 75-yard touchdown in the first half instead of Edelman. And I don't know. I can't bring myself to fade Gronkowski this week.
That's the thing. That's the thing. Is that this week is going to be the week that Rob Gronkowski ends up going off, and his ownership percentages are going to be so much lower just given what he's done the last couple of games. So, and the fact that there are good tight end values down there. So that's why. I do actually think that Gronk, thinking about this out loud more, I do think that Gronk is probably just the smarter play if you want to have a pass.
Why do you hate Gronk? Why do you hate Gronk so much? We're supposed to be talking about wide receivers though. So outside of Hopkins and Edelman, Anthony, who are some other guys that you're looking at to fill out wide receiver in your cash game lineups?
I love your boy Eric Decker this week, Davis. I think that this is a great spot for him. He's incredibly cheap. I can't get over how low his price point is right now on DK. And the bottom line is that in this offense, he scores touchdowns. And this is a really bad defense at defending number 2 wide receivers. They're 27th in DVOA against number 2 wide receivers, the Redskins. So I definitely think that he can have his way with this defense. And anytime I can get a guy that I think has a really good shot to score a touchdown at a really low price, I'm pretty much going to take it, especially in cash. So I'm all over Decker this week.
Yeah, Decker's going to score for the 4th week in a row. He's going to be matched up against Keyshawn Verrett in the slot. He has 3 inches and 15 pounds on Verrett, and he's fast and good. And it's just and actually Marshall is going to be up against Breeland, which he's actually really pretty good. I think a lot of people kind of like to mock the Redskins defense, but Breeland is a pretty good player, and any sort of extra help. What I wrote today is basically that pairing Decker with another comparably talented wide receiver like Demaryius Thomas, like Brandon Marshall, it throws defenses off because they treat Decker like he's not as talented as he is, and that's why Decker has 2 wide receiver 1 seasons and why he continues to score touchdowns at such a crazy clip, is if you give that dude wide receiver 2 coverage, he's going to exploit it because he's better than that. So I'm obviously all over Decker.
What about, I think there's a couple other guys too. Like Larry Fitzgerald's in an unbelievable spot against the Steelers. He's got 2 undersized corners that he's going to be going up against.
William Gay.
Just destroy them. You also have Narrative Street with Larry Fitzgerald playing at his college stadium. But also, there's I like Kendall Wright a lot. That's probably not
so done with Kendall Wright.
For you, Davis.
I had him in cash last week, and he sucks, dude. He sucks.
He did.
He's not a good football player.
No, he is.
No.
He's fine.
No.
Yeah, he's definitely
Anthony,
good.
No.
He's
Stop.
definitely
Stop.
good.
No.
You just hate his size. You hate his size.
He's been
No.
producing.
No. I'm someone who's come on this show pimping Willie Snead, who is also a midget. Kendall Wright is just not good.
What's so hard about touting a min-price wide receiver seeing double-digit targets? Oh my god, David.
I don't know. Why did he freaking crushed and he was super low owned?
Kendall
Dude, Kendall Wright sucks. No.
Top options against Miami have gone bonkers this year. Miami's pass defense efficiency is so brutally bad, so bad. The only thing that you should be worried about with the Dolphins defense is that they have seen the lowest passer run ratio this season. But the thing is that Tennessee can't really run the ball effectively. So I think Kendall Wright's gonna catch a lot of balls this week.
Kendall Wright has made absolutes twice this year, and one of the times it worked out because he got lucky. He's not a talented football player. Like, he's not above like league average or whatever. Like, he might be a fine play this week, but I'm not on him. And it's like you can't even say the volume is
double-digit targets.
He hasn't had double-digit targets in any game yet.
Okay, let's say he gets.
Yeah, but he's the number one though.
He is.
Exactly.
I mean, he's the number one the same way that, like, you know, Braylon Addison was the number one wide receiver for the Oregon Ducks. Mariota, Wisenhunt is creating an offense that was similar to what Mariota did in college, which was throw to who's open, not throw to a guy.
He saw 12 against Indy, by the way. But the thing like it's completely matchup driven. It's completely cost driven as well. Is still at a good price point. What do you guys feel about what about the Detroit situation with Calvin and Golden Tate? I think that's pretty interesting.
Anthony has a take on that.
Yeah, the thing that concerns me with Calvin and really any Detroit wide receiver is that Jim Caldwell doesn't let Matt Stafford do the only thing he does well, which is throw the ball up to Calvin Johnson. He literally came in last year and was like, we're just going to try to fix Matt Stafford, and by doing so, we're just going to make a bad quarterback worse because we're going to take away the only thing he does well. So, I mean, maybe Calvin's still seeing high volume, so it's possible that, like, just through variance, he scores a couple touchdowns because he's seeing way too many targets to not find the end zone right now. But it's just really hard to see that, those big chunk plays coming right now with the way that they're running their offense.
I mean, dude, they're just like throwing it to the running backs every time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree, but I also think that we all know that they've faced pretty tough defenses so far. Like, Calvin especially has already faced the number 1, 2, and 3 defenses against wide receivers this season. He's had now as a stretch of a lot of plus matchups, including this week. I really do think this is the week of Calvin Johnson and Eddie Lacy bounce backs.
Well, you can ride that take. I don't know. Kerry Williams. Someone made the point in chat that Kerry Williams was effective against Calvin Johnson last week. So that's rough, man. When Kerry Williams is
last week,
or what 3 weeks ago? Whenever they played, dude. I'm just saying.
I don't think that Calvin has not been efficient whatsoever. Don't get me wrong at all. But if you compare how he's performed to how other receivers have performed in the exact same matchups, it's really not that bad. I sent a tweet out about this earlier this week or yesterday. I mean, essentially, AJ Green has had the two exact same matchups. They played San Diego, they played Denver. AJ Green barely outscored what Calvin Johnson has done, because a lot of it has to do with volume still. Now he's got a very, very plus matchup, one of the best matchups you can ask for from a wide receiver, because the Bears just keep giving up wide receiver touchdowns, and it's literally the perfect scenario for Calvin to bounce back. If he doesn't do it this week, then sure. I mean, it's done.
This is like what everyone used to do with Fitzgerald when Ryan Lindley was his quarterback.
Stafford isn't. Look.
Stafford isn't Ryan Lindley yet.
How much better is Lindley? Oh, hey, come on, guys. He's pretty close to Ryan Lindley.
Look, I mean,
stop it.
I'm one of the biggest Matthew Stafford haters. I hate Matthew Stafford. I think he's terrible. But at the same time, this is a much more fixable situation than it is, say, in Denver, because this to me is more scheme based and more offensive play calling based than it is Stafford. Well, I mean, Stafford's not playing well. Don't spin my words, but then it is I think it's more fixable because of the play calling, because of the scheme, as opposed to in Denver.
Caldwell's pretty smart. Caldwell will figure it out. Smart guy.
I'm honestly hoping that Stafford just flips him off and starts throwing the ball down the field,
degaffing. Just starts degaffing, and he's just.
No, listen, dude. If Stafford goes out there and starts degaffing, Calvin could have 200 yards and 3 touchdowns in this game. But I just don't know if he's gonna do it. I'll put Calvin in some tournaments just for you, JJ. But I'm not excited about it. The one, yeah, you're welcome. I'm a good friend. The two other guys I want to talk about were Stephon Diggs for the Vikings. If Jarius Wright, Mike Wallace, and Charles Johnson are all injured again, he's going to see a ton of targets against a weak Kansas City secondary. But the guy I'm really on, and I'm currently playing him in DraftKings Cash, is Dwayne Harris. 6 and 8 targets in his last 2 games. Giants have ran the 7th most plays in the NFL. The Eagles have struggled against other wide receiver, the 3rd or 4th guy according to Football Outsiders, the 21st best in efficiency. Yeah, dude, I'm on Dwayne Harris this week, Anthony. What do you think about that? Am I getting a nod wave?
I mean, yeah, dude. I mean, listen, I'm a Giants fan. I watch like every game they play. Dwayne Harris is not good. Like every time he touches the football,
no, he's bad.
But the thing is that like if Odell doesn't play or Randall doesn't play, that makes him not a guy that's invisible on the field. That makes him someone that people are actually going to look at. So I don't even think that you should like him more because he might see more volume or because he might see, a higher situation in the offense. Because I don't know if that's even good for him. He's not a good football player.
Yeah. I mean, he's gonna get. I'll tell you this much. I would bet a good amount of money that he sees at least 6 targets in this game, no matter what.
What? Fine.
Yeah,
no.
Long touchdown every week. Like, come on.
No, it's like you don't.
I'd rather have Vereen in that game.
No, come on, you guys. I agree with that. Guys, Dwayne Harris, he is $3,100 on DraftKings.com.
He is also Dwayne Harris.
Look, dude, you just recommended Kendall Wright, who is just like expensive Dwayne Harris.
No, he's not.
Kendall Wright was a first-round draft pick.
No, all slot wide receivers.
He's the centerpiece in their passing game.
No, he's not the centerpiece of their passing game. There is no centerpiece.
He's the number 1 target in that passing game. The thing that sucks here is that Dwayne Harris is at such a low price point that even if Dwayne Harris catches 3 balls for 45 yards or something, like Davis isn't going to lose this argument. Like,
no,
that's what's unfortunate about this. But
it's not unfortunate. I'm trying to let everyone know there's a way to make Gronkowski, Hopkins, and Adrian Peterson and Brady work on DraftKings, and his name is Dwayne Harris.
You can use some middle price guys or low to middle cost like Anquan Bolden. Anquan Bolden's in an amazing spot this week. He's 4,300 on DraftKings. Like, it's not. I mean, obviously it's not Dwayne Harris levels, but Anquan Bolden's gonna get love.
Kendall Wright is Dwayne Harris. Dwayne Harris is Kendall Wright. I'm not budging from this take.
I'm done.
No, Dwayne Harris is dude. Obviously, and someone in the chat said Snead over Harris. Well, obviously that's true, but I don't want anything. I don't want anything to do with Devontae Freeman, so I'm staying out of these Thursday contests. Yeah. Dwayne Harris is a good play on DraftKings.com.
I mean, the thing is that you're like, I would rather play, like, let's say Charles Johnson is active. Then would you rather play Charles Johnson for $400 more than Dwayne Harris value wise?
No, I don't know.
To me, the answers to me, you know that the Chiefs have given up 8 top 20 performances to wide receivers this year.
The Chiefs suck.
Yeah, to Nate Washington, Marcus Wilson. I mean, Marquise Wilson. Like, it's been horrible. Like, to me,
Marcus Wilson is good.
Look. To me, you're going to want to play either Diggs. If you want to go close to min price, you're going to want to either go Diggs or Charles Johnson as opposed to playing Dwayne freaking Harris.
I'm sticking to this take.
I hate to leave you on an island, but there's just no way I'm putting Dwayne Harris in my lineup.
I'll say this. I want to play Diggs. Diggs is the guy I want to play, but that's going to be dependent on what injuries happen for Minnesota. There's a lot of different ways that it can go. And I also want everyone to realize that I know that this is my Preston Parker take. Like, this is like Tuttle coming out on the Swolecast and saying that, like, Preston Parker is a good play. Like, it's the exact same thing. Like, he sucks, but he's going to see some targets. But he's not any good, and I realize that. He's Kendall Wright.
I'm already envisioning a Dwayne Harris touchdown and you just destroying my mentions.
Twitter. I mean,
Frustrating.
Twitter is gonna be so lit when Dwayne Harris scores. No, because
Yeah, it's gonna be
and
ridiculous.
It's gonna come
be
on
done.
like an offsides Eli YOLO ball too. It's not even gonna come on like he's covered and he makes a nice play. It's just gonna be like Eli chucks it up.
Yeah. So this is the last thing I'm gonna say is the Giants are running the 7th most passing plays, or the 7th most overall plays. They're running the most no huddle out of everyone in the entire league, and neither team is going to be able to run the ball here. The Giants have the 2nd best rush defense by adjusted DVOA. The Eagles have the 4th. So both teams are going to be passing more. That leads to more overall plays with clock stoppages and everything else. So there's a good chance that both teams run close to 75 plays. If that happens, Dwayne Harris is going to see targets. We don't need to talk about this anymore. JJ, what tight ends other than Rob Gronkowski do you like this week?
I'd go with 2. I like Tyler Eifert. He's in a good spot. You have 2 Bills corners that can kind of stop the outside a little bit. They're susceptible at the middle. They're one of the worst teams at stopping tight ends in the NFL. I like Eifert a lot, and obviously you have to like Antonio Gates. Saw 11 targets last week. It's going to be a game where the Chargers are going to have some high passing volume, or that's what Vegas thinks, and that's what Logic thinks. I think Gates is in a good spot at a really, really good price point because he was on that Monday Night Football slate. So, FanDuel is at 5,500, DK is at 4,600. I think he's in a really, really good spot on both sites.
All right. What about you, Anthony?
Yeah, I agree on Gates, and I like Greg Olsen still. I know that he's a little higher priced than Gates, and you got to spend
It's going to be
the extra
nuts
grand. But
this week.
yeah, like he's going to be low owned. People are going to kind of forget about him, and he's playing the same Seattle defense that just gave up 90 yards and 2 touchdowns to Tyler Eifert. Like this defense, I don't care if Cam Chancellor plays or not, is not good against defending tight ends. So
Yeah.
I'm going to continue to look at Olsen in this matchup, especially since they'll be trailing, and he sees a ton of targets between the 20s and in the red zone.
Yeah. Another if you're trying to save money, I'm also not that against if he's healthy, if he plays, using Crockett Gilmore at 2,700 against the 49ers. This is my Derek Carrier take, which I wasn't on the show last week, and I wish I was because I would have just touted Derek Carrier.
We all touted Derek Carrier, except Evan. Evan said he was soft. Evan called him soft.
I mean, that's fine. He scored a touchdown. He's like the thing with Gilmore is the 49ers are pretty bad at stopping the position. They're bad on defense, so that makes sense. If Steve Smith doesn't go and Crockett Gilmore goes, Crockett Gilmore could see a ton of targets in this game.
Yeah.
That's really where the logic is. Just there's no one else in that offense, and he's at a good price point. But at the same time, I think that like a guy like Gates is at such a low price point that it's not necessary to just be like, oh, I'm going to use Crockett Gilmore and save not a ton of cap. I think there's other ways to save as opposed to doing it at tight end.
Yeah, I'm Team Gronk. I did just want to mention one thing. So let's assume Alshon doesn't play and Royal is still questionable. How are you attacking that situation, Anthony? Are you using Marcus Wilson? Do you still like Martellus Bennett this week?
I mean, I have no problem going back to Wilson if Alshon's not going to play. He played really well last week. The target's going to be there. Jay Cutler spread it around to a lot of different guys. He can still get 8 targets, even if Royal plays in that game. So I think I'd definitely go back there if he's out.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think I'm probably gonna we'll just come back to Dwayne Harris. If Eddie Royal and Alshon are both out, and even if just one of them is out, I'm playing Marcus because he's really good. And he's not Kendall Wright.
It doesn't sound like Alshon. I don't think Alshon's gonna play either.
Yeah, no.
Dude, there's no difference in what's happening. Jay Cutler even said today he's like I have no idea when he's coming back.
He's in a contract year and he's playing for like one of the bottom 5 teams in football. Like I wouldn't want to play if I was hurt either. Like
yeah.
Like why, bro?
No, definitely.
Yeah. All right. This is JJ's time to shine when we talk about terrible tight ends and defenses, bro. I actually am having a tough time with defenses this week because there are a lot of road favorites this week, and that's just always kind of difficult to diagnose. Who are your favorite defense plays, JJ?
I don't know, one of them that I've been kind of gravitating towards is the Lions against the Bears, just because of the turnover potential. But the other one that I like more, that's probably safer, I really like the Vikings defense against the Chiefs without Jamal Charles. Alex Smith has been sacked so many times this year. I think they're in a really good spot. Yeah, they're in a really good spot coming off a bye. Obviously, like I said, without Jamal Charles, I mean, the thing with the Chiefs, like last year they were really bad when it comes to targeting them with your fantasy defenses, because they play such conservative ball. But with that offensive line playing so bad and pass protection, and with the fact that they should be playing from behind in this game without Jamal Charles, I think the Vikings are probably the safest, most reasonable value play you can find. But if you're trying to find a really low cost one on DK specifically, I don't really mind Detroit at 2,500.
Yeah. Anthony, Jets, are they the chalk this week at home against Cousins?
Yeah, total chalk. They're at home. I think the game either has the lowest or the second lowest total this week, and they're about 6-point favorites. So to me, it's really hard to get away from them. Cousins is awful. So I'm really trying to get them in all my cash games. The price really isn't that bad. I mean, a lot of those prices for the upper defenses like Denver and Seattle have gone up closer to 4K. So I think the Jets are honestly a pretty decent bargain.
Yeah.
If I'm not going with them, I think, yeah, I mean, if I'm not going to go with them, I think that another option is the Bengals. They're priced, about $100 less, I think, only on both sites, and they're facing EJ Manuel. So I'm definitely on board with that too.
Yeah. I would, for the record, I would play the Jets over the two that I recommended. I'm just trying to just dig a little bit deeper with those.
Just dig a little deeper. All right. Do you have kicker takes, JJ? Do you have kicker takes? Do you want to recommend?
No,
I don't know.
I don't
Josh
know what kickers
Lambo?
are.
Kyle Brazinga?
It's Josh. Isn't it just Josh Lambo every week? Isn't that what people do?
No, dude. Robbie Solid Gold. Robbie Solid Gold is now minimum salary on FanDuel again, and let me tell you,
always Josh Lambo.
The last time we talked about kickers on this show, we only remember it once every 2 weeks. I was like, yo, everyone play Robbie Solid Gold, because when he makes a field goal, you get to tweet Solid Gold, and it's fire. And he made 6 field goals, and it was amazing. So definitely rocking out Solid Gold against Detroit this week. Anthony, kicker takes, bro. This is your big debut on FITV. Give me a kicker take.
I've been really studying hard for this. I'm gonna go with Suck Up, honestly. All the Suck Up this week.
Suck
Tennessee, man. Min price.
Wow.
Just throw a dart at the min price kickers, But I think Suck Up's the guy this week.
I'll tell you this. I am just absolutely sick of Josh Lambo, man. That dude, I know he made the 54-yard field goal or whatever, but I'm just sick of looking. No, I'm sick of looking at that dude's name in my lineups, bro. I just every week I'm just I want to see something different, dude. I don't play seasonal fantasy that much anymore. I don't want to roster the same dude every single week unless it's Eric Decker.
You're one of 3 people that hate Josh Lambo in this world.
No, Josh Lambo's dope, dude. He used to be an MLS goalie, so I have mad love for him because he's my brother in football love. But I need something new. It's not him, it's me. It's not him, it's me. You feel me?
I got you.
Okay. All right. I didn't break this, guys. I didn't break this to you guys before, but hot take of the week. I need a hot take from Anthony first, and then JJ. And JJ, do not come in here with some lukewarm crap. I need a hot take. All right, Anthony. Anthony, you first. Give me a take.
Colin Kaepernick's going to score at least 28 DK points this week. It's going to happen. I don't know if that's hot enough, but the Baltimore pass defense, man, they can't stop him. And I think this is going to be another week like he had against the Steelers.
Okay. All right, JJ, hot take. I want my screen to burn.
Calvin Johnson's the number 1 wide receiver this week.
Boom. Hot takes. My hot take is a minimum of 8 DraftKings points from Dwayne Harris. For $3,100 on DraftKings.com.
He's not even hot.
He has to breathe.
Points.
Okay, no. All right. So serious hot take. Eric Decker has his first 100-yard game of the season with 2 touchdowns against the Washington professional football team. And for the 97th week in a row, he'll be 6% owned in cash games, and everyone who didn't take him will be like, oh, Eric Decker's so bad. He's just number 2 wide receiver. Bruh, the worst.
I feel like even when that's not the case, someday you're still going to pretend that it's the case and just continue this narrative because you love
No,
it.
everyone hates Eric Decker, dude. No one understands him like I do. No one understands him. Everyone who listens to the show, if you liked what you heard, if you thought that there were some reasonable takes going on here, some logic you'd like to dig more into, make sure to head on over to fantasyinsiders.com. Check out our plans page. We have stuff going for football. Anthony's delivering some great content. I do my weekly automatic absolutes. Got content for all of the sports. No chat. We cannot talk about how J-Matt has butterfingers. I specifically did not bring him up at any point in the show because I didn't want to talk about it. Make sure to check out JJ on numberfire.com. Follow him on Twitter at LateRoundQB. Anthony, I don't know the exact spelling of your handle. Everyone go follow Anthony on it. What is your handle on Twitter?
It's at Amicsta. It's AMICSTA.
Awesome. Crushed it on your call up to the big leagues today. Thank you, JJ. Thank you, Anthony. Everyone from fantasyinsiders.com. We'll talk to you soon.